All right, it's Wednesday, June 1st at 9 a.m. This is the June meeting of the Personnel Committee. I'd like to call the order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. All members are present. First agenda item is the approval of our May 3rd meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes. Citizens' comments, there are none. Old business item. First item on old business is the ATAX committee vacancies. We've had one additional vacancy created with a resignation, and that is a lodging position on the committee. So now we have two open positions, one hospitality and one lodging. I believe we've have one additional applicant. And so my question is that this appears that this could potentially be a hospitality opening, although the hospitality has been in, it seems to be in Charleston as opposed to Isle of Palms, but we don't have any others. But what I would like to do is to make a recommendation that we interview this person to find out about them and keep the hospitality position open until we're able to do that. And I assume that would be at the workshop. We discussed that at the workshop meeting. How would we go about doing this? This is the
I
question.
think this month you can schedule a special meeting, just like you did on the 23rd to interview this person.
We'll do that later in the month. I think when we can, we'll coordinate our schedules to
Sure.
do that then. But I would like to make a motion. We do have a hospitality opening and a lodging opening. And I believe that one of the candidates from that we had already interviewed would fit that. And that's Rebecca Kovalich. So I would like to make a motion that we nominate or make a recommendation to council that we nominate Rebecca Kovalich to the ATAX committee for the open lodging position.
I'll second that.
All right, so any discussion around that? Yeah. All right. Let's take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I have a comment I'd just like to add, which has
Sure.
to do with the first candidate. I don't know why you were saying it's about Charleston. This is a woman who is retired now and lives on the Isle of Palms, has lived here for 34 years. And so her experience is elsewhere, but she is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just saying her hospitality experience seems to be in the city of Charleston with
But it's in the area.
and the CVB and some other things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I think we should interview her though. And
Yes.
so I think she could be a fit for that
Okay.
hospitality position.
Yes. Yeah, you have to have hospitality experience here on the island.
Not
I
necessarily.
didn't think I think it's more the experience. Okay, that's all,
All
just a
right, so we'll
clarification.
schedule that interview for later in the month when we can coordinate our schedules, but it seems we have the one remaining opening is left. Hopefully it stays that way.
Okay, great.
The next item is discussion and consideration of having a referendum in the November 2022 election to ask citizens they want to reduce the size of council from 9 to 7 members. There is a draft ordinance in the packet.
Is that updated, Desiree?
No, the ordinance that was included, the draft ordinance that was included in the packet when it was distributed earlier this week was essentially the same version that the Personnel Committee had looked at last year and council had looked at last year. We just received yesterday afternoon a revised version that had been reviewed by legal counsel. So that is not yet updated on the website, but it will. It essentially establishes that in order to be compliant with the state statute, the recommendation would be to eliminate a seat at the end of the following municipal elections. State statute essentially doesn't allow for 2-year terms, with the exception when there's a change in form of government or when a municipality is just becoming incorporated. Because neither of those apply to us, we haven't found a way to maintain the staggered terms and be compliant with the city. So there would be a period of 2 years that the city would have 8 council members between 2024 and 2026. If council decides to, let's say a referendum is successful to reduce its change of council and you want to implement it starting in 2024, then between 2024 and 2026, there would be 8 members in council. So,
And I believe, I like this better, but I believe that the last version as well, though, had a period of time where there was 8 council members.
that's correct.
And there's no way to get around it, at least that I see.
It doesn't seem to be. The other one was more long-term when, I think it would be at the end of 2027,
Right.
when it would have been implemented. This would happen essentially by 2026. The main difference here is that there's no 2-year term associated with the future reduction. You're just eliminating 1 seat in each upcoming election.
Yeah, and the one thing I think to keep in mind is when there are 8 council members, the majority still stands at 5, which it would be with 9.
It would be. The only thing to consider or be aware of in an even number of council members, when there is a split vote,
It doesn't
it essentially it's voted down. So it goes to the negative. So just something to be aware about.
Yeah, so within that period, you still need 5 votes to pass an ordinance.
That is correct.
So just to recap, since this is not in the packet, but that you had sent this revised ordinance, it is binding, right? It says this. It says, shall the city, the question being posed is, shall the city of Isle of Palms reduce the size of its city council from a mayor and 8 council members to a mayor and 6 council members? To preserve the staggered terms of city council, 1 council member seat will be eliminated at the expiration of the 2020-2024 term, and a 2nd council member seat will be eliminated at the expiration of the 2022-2026 term. And it's a yes or no question. Is there any additional comments or on this?
One other question that was raised was, is this a binding referendum or not?
Yes, the way that it's spelled out currently in the draft ordinance that you have, it is binding. However, after a referendum passes, assuming that the referendum passes, city council still has to approve an ordinance, which requires 2 readings to affect the change, because it needs to be codified in the city of Isle of Palms Code of Ordinances. So that is the timeline, assuming that the council will vote in accordance with the result of the referendum. But it does require an ordinance from council to implement the change.
Okay.
That's why the question is posed that way. And there's a few other places in the code that we would just need to clean up to reflect the reduction of council members.
So Desiree or John and Janet, this seems to accomplish what the objective was out of the city council meeting results that we had, with sort of the direction to make it a binding item. It's going to be to the will of the voters, and seems to accomplish what we set out to accomplish for a referendum draft. Is that, and what would be the next step here for us?
I think the next step for us is to make a motion that we approve this to take to city council at the June council meeting for consideration. And the timeline, again, it has to have 2 readings. So the first reading would be in June, 2nd reading in July, for us to be able to get it to the Charleston County Board of Elections by August the 15th, I believe is the deadline. in order to get on the November ballot. So I make a motion that we approve, or that we take this ordinance to reduce the council members from 9 to 7 as written to city council in June for approval.
I'll second that.
Any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
I abstain. Guess I need a reason for that, don't I?
Yeah, the city code requires every council member to vote on a question unless there's a recusal.
Aye.
So under new business, discussion of proposed changes to annual leave policy and accrual rates. And I think this, Desiree, you have some information that you want to share with us on this one?
Yes, this is just a discussion topic. Wanted to introduce to you all so that, you can think about it, and we'll be prepared with a proposal in the next month. But as you all know, last year, the city went through a pretty extensive wage and compensation adjustment study. And as a result of that, the city implemented adjustments to essentially 99% of all city employees for salary adjustments. The average of the adjustment at the time was about between 4 and 7%, depending on the department. Part of that study and part of those recommendations included the city evaluating, changing, and essentially improving our vacation accrual policy. As you can see, I've provided to you all examples of the vacation policy and accrual rates from our neighboring communities. You can see the difference there. In some aspects, the city is lagging a little bit behind. And we think that there's an opportunity here to be more competitive and more in line with some of the municipalities where we currently essentially compete for. This is also related to the city's strategic plan, priority number 6, referring to, having a strong recruitment and retention policy for city employees and valuing our city employees. So we're in the process of developing that. Janice is not here today. She's participating in an emergency preparedness exercise with other communities. So I wanted to introduce the topic to you all. This will likely be something that we'll discuss with full council when we go to the workshop structure next month. But again, just wanted to have a very preliminary discussion. We will get feedback from our department heads as part of our development of an actual proposal. But we are looking at increasing our accrual rates for new employees, and that would also mean adjusting current employees to make sure that we maintain that equity between those folks that have been here for a long time and those that are starting off. My main concern is right now, when you compare our vacation accrual policy for new hires, it's pretty low. And I think that there's an opportunity to improve that. With the new generation of folks that are entering the workforce, there is an expectation for time off and an encouragement policy, I guess, from the city that employees should be able to utilize that benefit. So I really like some other communities' policy that requires employees to use at least 1 week of vacation a year. I think that that's something that I would like to consider moving forward, and just adjusting the hours and again, the accrual rates. When you look at another thing that we're looking at is the holidays observed by.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes. Sure.
And this just for clarification, and hopefully you're going to have some recommendations when we take it to the next step. It sounds like you're on path for that, but when and this is more curiosity, carryover limit like 30 days, does that mean you carry it over to the next day or next year and you have to use that, or is this a banked thing where you're building up a bank of, say, over 30 years, can you bank 30 days a year and all, and you have that? Is it a bankable carryover, or is it you have to use it the next year?
So if you have more than 30 days within a year, anything over 30 days expires before you can continue, you can carry over that bank for the next year.
Your bank is limited at 30.
That's
days.
right.
Okay.
That's
Maximum,
right.
you can only-
Maximum.
That's the max. So if you
Correct.
have 30 days bank, you have to then use your vacation. to
Correct.
accrue.
Or you lose it.
Or you
Yeah,
lose
okay,
it.
that's right. All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
The city does have a policy in place that allows employees to cash out at a maximum of $1,000 of your vacation time every year. Right now, it's the policy, establishes that folks need to prove to the department that they're having a hardship and they need to cash out some vacation time. So they can do that up to $1,000. So what happens at the end of the year, oftentimes for those folks that have more than 30 days accrued for the year, they either use that time or have the ability to cash out at least $1,000.
Well, the thing that strike me about our policy is that it does seem, for new employees, there's an opportunity. It seems that in today's times that's an important factor, and it seems fairly low relative to other communities. And the other thing that strikes me is more senior level employees. It seems to be capped. Once you hit 5 years, it's capped. So those are the two things that just strike me relative to the competition. But
Did Desiree finish her presentation?
on,
We were on the
I don't know.
accrual thing, and then we're gonna move, I think, to the holidays. So
And this is very informal.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But I agree. I think that there's an opportunity for those new hires that we can potentially even double the amount of leave that folks are able to accrue on their maybe the first 5 years. And those 5 years plus, 3 weeks compared to other communities would offer 4 and sometimes even more.
Okay, I had a question because I know in some businesses, they lump the vacation and sick leave together so that you're not checking on somebody to make sure they're really sick or something like that. So you get so many days a year for what they call
Personal time
leave.
off. Mhm.
So what's our policy with sick leave?
Sick leave, folks accrue about 8 hours a month for sick leave. That could be used again for,
So that's 12 days a year.
I believe so. I can provide that. I can
Okay.
provide you that policy. But folks that are out on sick leave for more than 3 days have to return with a doctor's note. That's something that we monitor. We've never really had an issue with people abusing that policy. So it really is not an issue. In the past, we have looked at lumping PTO together. It hasn't gotten a lot of traction. It's very unusual in the municipal government world to do that. So that's not something that we've looked at before, and it doesn't have any, it hasn't had any, I guess, benefit. So, and we don't have an issue, I think, with sick leave. We're pretty competitive. That's something we'll also look a little bit closer as part of this process. But essentially, the vacation and the vacation accrual leave is one thing that I think
Okay, so you don't have any administrative issues with sick leave?
no, we don't. So the other component of this discussion is the holidays observed by surrounding municipalities. You can see IOP in total has 11 days. So we're pretty much in line with the majority of our surrounding communities. Somerville and Charleston County are the only two that exceed the current offering from IOP. We're pretty much in line with Sullivan's, Mount Pleasant, Charleston, North Charleston. We're ahead of Goose Creek and Folly Beach. But again, this is something, if we want to be very competitive, that's an option that the city can consider. There are a couple of holidays that could be considered, such as Good Friday, Juneteenth, which is a recent one that other communities are starting to observe. And the day after Christmas seems to be popular among some of them. Sullivan's Island currently offers a personal day of choice, which could be used during a current, a holiday or any day. Some people choose to take their day of their birthday as their personal day of choice. So that's another option that the city could consider including. That is a little bit difficult sometimes with small departments. When even if we do a personal day of choice, it would be treated as a vacation day. So there's a minimum time that people have to request that day off so that it allows for proper planning. But sometimes that tends to be a little bit difficult with smaller departments. I also wanted to include that the estimated cost to the city of a holiday day, as you all know, police and fire, they still work shifts, so they get paid double time during holidays. It's roughly $12,900. So that would be the additional cost to the city. There's additional costs because we're providing an extra holiday day to employees, but cash out essentially is for overtime for PD and fire. It would be 13,000.
All right, so your plan is to come to council at the workshop in July with a recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have some comments about the holiday schedule. Have you thought about possibly having, for lack of a better word, one holiday floater, like among President's Day, Juneteenth, Veterans Day, maybe have it, two of those three would be the choice of the employee, which one they wanted. I think that makes us more open and more flexible with our employees. And the other one would be the choice of either Christmas Eve or the day after Christmas. Because I know sometimes Christmas is on a Sunday, you want the day after. Sometimes you want, if it's on a Friday, you might want the day before, something like that. And I don't know how flexible you are in changing that and what other people would want with as employees, whether they would want a choice with that rather than having to take the one assigned.
So currently, if a holiday falls on a Saturday, the city observes it on Friday. And if the holiday falls on Sunday, the city observes it on Monday.
Yeah.
The day after Christmas, it's not something that the city currently offers. Employees can use their current vacation leave to take that day, but it is not offered. Just to clarify, are you suggesting that the city select one of the holidays that are currently offered and changing that into a personal day of choice, or adding a personal day of choice to the current selection of holidays that are observed?
I'm sort of saying it's not a personal day of choice in terms of it has to be one of the, like for the President's Day, Juneteenth, and Veterans Day, you pick two of the three. So it's already a designated holiday. I
So
guess
the
all but
personal day of
Juneteenth.
choice would have to be used during an existing holiday. Is that what you're?
Yeah, so if
Okay.
that's the way you're going to define it. And then an employee would have the choice of either Christmas Eve or the day after Christmas.
We currently offer Christmas Eve.
But I'm saying we don't offer the day after Christmas now.
That's correct.
So the employee would have the choice of either Christmas Eve or the day after Christmas.
Okay.
I don't know how you feel about that, but it's giving more flexibility to the employee rather than a fixed schedule for the employer or the city. And if it's difficult for the city to operate under those conditions, I understand. But I was just saying, can we give more flexibility to the employee?
It is difficult, particularly with police and fire, because that payroll would be very complicated if you have some people who are working on a holiday but chose to change that day. You know what I mean? Like it would be very complicated for payroll to just sort of articulate how people are, what hours that person is using, if it's a holiday day or a regular part of the regular schedule. So I would not favor that,
You wanna-
particularly because of that complication.
Okay. I would like for you to bring that to police and fire and have their
Sure.
response to.
Sure.
I'm sure they'll probably say the same thing, but let's hear it from them. The number seems to be appropriate for the rest of the communities. I don't see any additional. But I'm just looking for more flexibility for employees if it's not too complicated.
All right, well, if y'all have any thoughts between now and next meeting, feel free to let me know, make suggestions, and I'll be reviewing this with our department heads certainly before making any final proposal to council.
So what, are we doing anything with the annual leave accrual rates that we have?
They're just gonna bring a recommendation to workshop in July.
Yes,
Okay, so
we'll work on a recommendation.
whether you want to keep it the same or change it.
We'll probably change it, but at what rate, that's what we'll develop and present to you all
Okay,
and council.
okay.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, on one item miscellaneous
Oh, sorry.
business, I guess this will be
Jumping ahead.
there will be no further personnel committee meetings, and it will be the workshop starting in July.
Yes, the first workshop meeting is scheduled for June 12th, which is July 12th, which is the second Tuesday of the month. And then the council meeting will stay at the regular fourth Tuesday of the month.
Second Tuesday.
Do you all want to pick a date for your special meeting to interview Ms. Clark?
We get back to you on that.
Yeah,
Sure, we can,
I'll need to look at calendars.
We
but
can do that.
we'll schedule
You'll
that.
propose something. I'm fairly open.
All right.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.